After I was robbed of $180,000, my savings and my wife's jewelry, my brother-in-law suddenly appeared with a new house in a prestigious neighborhood and a silver Audi. I was boiling with betrayal, while he was flaunting his success. But a week later, the phone rang. He was crying into the receiver. "What have you done? I hate you." My revenge was sweet and cold. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and write in the comments what time it is where you are now. I ran my fingers along the empty shelf inside the safe. The metal felt cold, smooth, no scratches, no marks where someone might have pried or forced their way in. Just an empty cavity where $180,000 in cash and my late wife's jewelry collection had been that morning before I left for my fishing trip. The safe door hung open behind me. I'd been standing there long enough that my coffee had gone cold on the desk. 3 hours, maybe 4. Time moves strangely when you realized your daughter and her husband had just stolen your retirement. Voices drifted from the kitchen. Lula's laugh, high and bright. Seth's lower rumble responding. They'd been living in the guest wing for a year now. Temporary, they'd said, just until they got back on their feet. I picked up the desk phone and dialed. "Phoenix Police Department. I'd like to report a theft." Detective Ramirez arrived within the hour. Mid-40s, tired eyes, the kind of cop who'd seen enough to know when a case would go nowhere. He examined the safe with professional efficiency, running his fingers over the lock mechanism the way I had. "Clean job," he said. "No scratches, no drill marks." He tested the combination, watching the tumblers align. "Works perfectly." He photographed the empty interior, then turned to me. "Mr. Butler, I need to ask, who has access to this safe?" "3 people." I kept my voice level. "Myself, my daughter Lula, her husband Seth." Ramirez's expression didn't change, but I saw the small shift in his posture. He'd already drawn his conclusions. "The combination, is it written down anywhere, stored digitally?" "No, memorized only." "When did you last change it?" 6 months ago." He nodded slowly, making notes. "What was taken?" "Cash. My retirement savings, $180,000, and my late wife's jewelry collection." The words came out matter-of-fact, clinical. 35 years as a financial advisor had taught me to separate emotion from information. Numbers were just numbers. The fact that these particular numbers represented everything I'd saved, everything I'd planned for, didn't change their value in a police report. "Without physical evidence of a break-in," Ramirez said carefully, "we're looking at someone who knew the code. You understand what that means." "I understand. I'll need to speak with your daughter and son-in-law." I walked to the study door and called down the hallway. "Lula. Seth. Could you come here, please?" Seth appeared first, hovering near the doorway like he wasn't sure he was allowed to enter. His hands went into his pockets, then out again, then crossed over his chest. When Detective Ramirez introduced himself, Seth's eyes darted between us. "This is crazy!" His voice came out too loud, too emphatic. "Who would do this?" Lula rushed past him and wrapped her arms around me. "Dad, this is terrible. Who would do this?" The embrace felt performative. Her body was tense, not comforting. She pulled back quickly. Her eyes dried despite the shock in her voice. "We'll help you look for clues," she said. I noticed she hadn't asked what was stolen. As if she already knew. Ramirez questioned them both. Seth's story came out in a tumble. He'd been working late all week, got home after 10 most nights, hadn't seen anything unusual. His pitch climbed higher with each sentence. "Ray, buddy, we'll figure this out." He forced a smile. "We're family, right?" The word felt hollow. When Ramirez asked about the safe combination, Seth shifted his weight. "I mean, yeah, Ray gave it to me for emergencies, but I've never used it. Never needed to." Lula jumped in. "My father is the most honest person I know." She looked at Ramirez with something like accusation. "People take advantage of that." The detective took their statements, professional and detached. When he finished, he turned back to me. "I'll be honest with you. These cases are tough. Very tough. We'll investigate, but without witnesses or footage. How long before you know something?" "Could be weeks. Could be longer. I'm sorry, Mr. Butler." "I understand. Thank you for coming, Detective." After Ramirez left, Seth and Lula retreated to their bedroom in the guest wing. I heard their door close, heard the urgent murmur of their voices through the wall, though I couldn't make out words. I sat at my desk and opened my laptop, created a new document, typed timeline last 7 days at the top. 35 years as a financial advisor taught me one thing: numbers don't lie. People do. I'd spent decades tracking money trails, finding discrepancies in portfolios, uncovering fraud that clients thought they'd hidden perfectly. I knew how to read patterns in financial behavior that others missed. This was just another case, except this time it was personal. I began listing dates and events. Who was home when? Seth's supposed late nights at work. Lula's sudden shopping trips to cheer herself up. The way they'd both seemed lighter somehow in the days before I left for my fishing trip. Almost giddy. Standing there watching Seth avoid my eyes. Watching Lula perform concern while checking her phone. I knew. The police couldn't help me. Fine. I'd spent my career building cases, connecting dots that seemed unrelated until you stepped back and saw the pattern. This was the same skill set. Different application. Something cold settled in my chest. Not rage. Not grief. Something methodical. I heard Seth and Lula's bedroom door open. Heard them moving around in the kitchen. Voices careful and quiet. They thought the police visit had spooked them into safety. They thought I was just a defeated old man accepting his loss. That was their first mistake. I steepled my fingers and stared at the screen. 3 days. I'd give them 3 days to slip up. Then I'd know for certain. I checked my watch again. 6:45. Lula was 15 minutes late to the dinner I'd invited her to, and Seth hadn't shown up at all. The dining table was set with 3 places. I'd prepared the meal myself. Nothing fancy, just chicken and vegetables. But I'd set it formally. Cloth napkins, water glasses filled, the kind of setup that said this mattered. I heard footsteps on the porch, and then a knock. She lived here, but knocked now. The formality felt like distance, like we were strangers sharing space. "Sorry, Dad," Lula breezing in, not quite meeting my eyes. "Seth got caught up at the office. You know how IT projects are." Convenient. 3 days of me watching them, and now Seth was avoiding direct contact. We sat. Lula accepted food, but barely touched it, pushing vegetables around her plate. She kept checking her phone, screen glowing with each notification. "How's Seth handling everything?" I asked, keeping my tone light. "The stress?" "He's fine, Dad. We're fine." She set her fork down. "Actually, I'm glad it's just us. I wanted to tell you something exciting." The shift in her demeanor was immediate. The distracted energy focused into barely contained enthusiasm. "Seth and I are buying a house, our own place. We'll finally be independent." I let surprise register on my face. Mild, not suspicious. "A house? That's a big step. Where are you looking?" "North Scottsdale. Really nice neighborhood." North Scottsdale. Where houses started at $500,000 and climbed from there. I kept my expression neutral, congratulatory. "That's expensive territory. You must have found something special." "Oh, Seth's been smart with money. Saving. And his bonuses have been great this year." Seth's bonuses. Right. The same Seth who'd asked to borrow money for car insurance 2 months ago. "I'm happy for you both," I said. "You deserve it." The lie came out smooth. Natural. The way I'd reassured anxious clients for decades that their portfolios were fine, even when they weren't. Lula's phone buzzed again. She glanced at it, then stood abruptly. "I should get back. Seth will want to know how you reacted to our news." She was at the door before I could respond. Didn't offer to help clean up. Didn't ask how I was doing with the investigation. Just excited about her new house, eager to return to Seth. I watched through the window as she walked to the guest wing entrance. Saw the door close behind her. Heard faintly their voices rise in celebration. I cleared the table slowly. 3 plates of barely touched food. 3 water glasses. The formality of the evening suddenly felt absurd. That night, I lay awake listening to their muffled conversation through the walls. They were broke last month, now buying property. The timeline was too perfect. The next morning, I was checking the mailbox when Mr. Patterson approached, walking his terrier. 70-something, friendly, the kind of neighbor who noticed everything but meant no harm by it. "Morning, Ray. Beautiful day, isn't it?" "Morning, Patterson." "Say, I saw your son-in-law at the Audi dealership yesterday." He grinned. "That boy's doing well for himself." My pulse quickened, but I kept my expression mild. Oh, he was just looking around, I think. Looked serious to me. He was in that finance office forever, over on Scottsdale Road. I was dropping my car for service. Saw him through the window. Well, good for him. I forced a chuckle. Nice to see young folks getting ahead. Patterson continued on his walk. I stood there in my driveway, mail forgotten in my hand. Audi dealership, finance office. Yesterday. I got in my truck and drove. Scottsdale Audi sat gleaming in the late morning sun, luxury vehicles arranged like jewelry in a display case. I parked and walked the lot first, scanning. Q7s, A8s, even an R-Route in the showroom window. Inside, the air conditioning hit like a wall. A salesman glanced up from his desk, mid-30s, well-dressed, professionally friendly. I recognized him vaguely from service visits years ago when I'd had a leased A6. Mr. Butler, good to see you. His smile was automatic, but genuine. How's your truck running? Tom, right? I kept my tone casual, just a guy stopping by. Running fine, thanks. Actually, I saw my son-in-law here yesterday. Seth Davis. Thought I'd check what he bought. Wants to surprise my daughter. Tom's smile faltered slightly. Client privacy warring with politeness. But my approach had been disarming. Family checking on family. Nothing suspicious. Oh, your son-in-law. Yeah, Seth. Seth Davis, right? He relaxed. Just bought a Q7. Beautiful vehicle. Silver. Loaded. He's a lucky guy. He must have gotten good financing. Actually, he made a serious impression with that down payment. Tom leaned in, almost conspiratorial. 25,000 cash. Not many young guys can do that these days. 25,000 in cash. Financing the rest, but with that kind of down payment, banks were happy to work with him. I thanked Tom and left before my face could betray anything. Made it to my truck. Sat there with the engine off, staring at nothing. 3 days after $180,000 disappeared from my safe, Seth had walked into a dealership with $25,000 in cash. I drove home on autopilot, my mind calculating timelines, adding figures. When I turned onto my street, I saw it immediately. A silver Audi Q7 sat in my driveway. New. Gleaming. Their old Honda was gone. I parked on the street and sat there, engine ticking as it cooled. Stared at that $68,000 vehicle. Did the math, $25,000 down. The rest financed. Bought 3 days after the theft. Something clicked. Not rage, not shock. Something colder, sharper. I entered the house quietly. Heard Seth and Lula laughing in the guest wing, celebrating their new car, their new house, their new life built on my retirement savings. I went to my study and closed the door. Locked it. Opened my laptop and created a new document. Titled it Evidence. Listed everything. Audi Q7 purchase. $25,000 cash down payment. Timing, 3 days after theft. Seth's avoidance. Lula's dismissiveness. House purchase announcement. Their sudden wealth after months of being broke. For 35 years, I'd helped clients protect their assets from bad actors. Now, I realized with absolute clarity that I'd been living with two people who saw me as nothing more than an asset to exploit. I leaned back in my chair, fingers steepled. Through the wall, I heard their voices rise in another burst of laughter. I wouldn't confront them. Not yet. Let them feel safe. Let them buy their house. Drive their new car. Believe they'd gotten away with it. The bigger their dreams got, the harder they'd fall. I'd spent my career following money. This was just another trail. Except this time, I knew exactly where it led. Marcus Webb's office occupied the second floor of a building on Main Street, above a coffee shop that filled the stairwell with the smell of burnt espresso. I climbed the stairs at exactly 9 in the morning, a week after I'd watched Seth drive away in his new Audi. The office was functional, diplomas on the walls, stacks of case files on a credenza, 2 client chairs facing a desk covered in yellow legal pads. Webb looked up when his assistant showed me in, mid-50s, gray at the temples, reading glasses perched on his nose. Mr. Butler. He stood, extended his hand. Firm grip, professional. Have a seat. I placed my manila folder on his desk. Inside, my handwritten timeline, printed bank statements showing the theft date, photographs I'd taken of the Audi in my driveway. Webb opened it, scanned the contents without expression. "You've been thorough," he said. 35 years as a financial advisor teaches you to document everything. He read for another minute, then looked up. Mr. Butler, I've reviewed your notes. You've got timeline, opportunity, and suspicious behavior. What you don't have is proof that would satisfy a prosecutor. I don't want to prosecute them. I kept my voice level. The police made it clear that's not viable. What I want is information. Complete financial information. Webb set down the folder. Public records are accessible for legitimate purposes. Mortgage applications, property transfers, tax liens, all public information. I can obtain these legally. How quickly? 3 to 5 days, depending on what I find. He slid a document across the desk. My rate is $3.50 an hour. For what you're asking, I'll need a retainer of $3,500. That covers about 10 hours of work, maybe more if I hit complications. I pulled out my checkbook, wrote the amount without hesitation. Money wasn't the issue. Getting the truth was. Webb took the check, made a note on his legal pad. What exactly are you hoping to find? I want to know where a $65,000 a year IT manager got $70,000 in cash. I leaned forward, because the timing suggests he got it from my safe. Understanding something and proving it are different standards. Webb's expression didn't change. But I'll get you the documentation. What you do with it is your decision. I drove home and spent the next 4 days performing, playing the defeated father, the man who'd accepted his loss and moved on. The first day I mentioned to Lula that I was closing the police report. They're not finding anything. She'd looked relieved. That's probably smart, Dad. Don't torture yourself over it. The second day, Seth asked about moving forward. I sighed, kept my voice tired. What choice do I have? The money's gone. That's healthy, man, Seth said. Can't dwell forever, right? The third day, Lula asked me about the real estate market. She was researching for their house purchase, wanted my professional opinion on North Scottsdale property values. I gave her genuine advice, detailed and helpful. She thanked me, didn't notice the irony. By the fourth day, they'd stopped watching me carefully. Their conversations grew louder, less guarded. They laughed in the guest wing, made plans, talked about furniture shopping. They believed I'd given up. Good. When I returned to Webb's office, he had a stack of documents waiting. He spread them across his desk, like cards in a hand of poker. Mortgage application for $395,000. He tapped the first document. Property in North Scottsdale suburbs. Down payment declared as $45,000 cash. I studied the highlighted figures. Where's the property? Don't have the exact address yet. That comes with the closing documents. But the application shows Seth Davis as primary borrower. Income verified at $65,000 annually. Webb pulled out another document. Banking records, the public portions, show no large deposits matching the down payment amount. No loans, no gifts, no inheritance declarations. He looked up. Where does a $65,000 a year IT manager get $70,000 in cash? He doesn't. I kept my eyes on the documents. Unless he steals it. Webb pulled out a calculator, started running numbers on his legal pad. Let's be conservative. Say he takes home $4,000 a month after taxes. Even if he saved aggressively for 2 years, that's maybe $30,000. Where's the other 40? You know where. Believing and proving are different things, Ray. He set down his pen. The timeline aligns. The amounts are suspicious. But without a confession or a witness, the police won't touch this. Then I need to find another way. Webb leaned back in his chair, studying me. If the law can't punish them, maybe the law can give me tools to do it myself. What options exist for someone who wanted to make their life difficult? That's an interesting question. Webb's expression didn't change. I'd need to think about it. 2 days later, I sat in a different office across town. Business park, sterile lighting, name on the door. Diana Torres, forensic accountant. Webb had recommended her. Former IRS auditor, he'd said. Knows how to find money trails. Torres was direct. No small talk. No pleasantries. Marcus sent over the basics. Let me see your timeline. I handed her the spreadsheet I'd created. She studied it for 30 seconds, then turned to her laptop. Her fingers moved quickly across the keyboard, pulling up what looked like a projection program. Look at this. She turned the screen toward me. My timeline appeared as a visual graph. Dates aligned like dominoes falling. February 15th, you're robbed. February 18th, he makes a $25,000 cash down payment on an Audi. February 25th, he applies for a mortgage with $45,000 cash down. $70,000 in 10 days, I said. The IRS looks for patterns like this. Torres highlighted the cash payments in red. Structured transactions designed to avoid reporting requirements. If someone flagged this to them, they'd want answers about income sources. I filed that information away carefully. Not yet, but useful. For your purposes, Mr. Butler, you already have your answer. Torres closed the laptop. The math doesn't lie. He had no legitimate source for this cash. The timing is too perfect. But proving it to a criminal standard, that's different. You'd need a confession or a witness. Can you document all of this in a report? $1,200. Everything cross-referenced, timeline verified, discrepancies highlighted. Do it. That evening, I sat in my study with both reports spread across my desk. Webb's property research, Torres's forensic analysis. Together, they told a complete story. Seth and Lula had stolen $180,000 from my safe. They'd used $25,000 for an Audi down payment. They'd used $45,000 for a house down payment. The rest, over $100,000, was likely hidden somewhere, maybe in their new house, maybe in accounts I couldn't access yet. I had motive, I had opportunity, I had a timeline that aligned perfectly. What I didn't have was proof that would satisfy a criminal court. But I wasn't planning to go to criminal court. I opened my laptop and created a new document. Evidence, February-March 2025. I organized it into sections. Timeline, financial discrepancies, behavioral patterns, public records. I printed 2 copies. One went into my new safe. Different model, different location, combination only I knew. The other went into a folder I'd take to my bank's safe deposit box tomorrow. Through the wall, I heard Seth and Lula laughing. Music playing. They were celebrating something, probably another step closer to their move. Let them celebrate. Let them pack their boxes and plan their furniture arrangements. Let them think they'd won. I'd spent 3.5 decades helping people build financial security. Now I was using those exact same skills to dismantle the lives of 2 people who'd seen me as nothing more than an asset to exploit. I closed the laptop and turned off the desk lamp. The room went dark except for the glow of streetlight through the window. They thought this was over. They thought they'd gotten away with it. They were wrong. Through the hallway, I could see Seth carrying another box past the guest wing entrance. "Kitchen," the label read in Lula's handwriting. She followed with a smaller box, laughing at something he'd said about their new dishwasher. I sat in my living room armchair, coffee cup in hand, watching them pack. 2 weeks until the move. The house closing was finalized. 8847 Pinnacle Peak Road. I'd known the address for days, filed it away with everything else. Tonight was their farewell dinner. Lula's idea, supposedly to end things on good terms. I'd agreed, of course. Played the gracious father, the man who'd moved on. At 6:30, I finished setting the table. Good dishes, cloth napkins, wine glasses, 3 steaks on the outdoor grill, potatoes roasting in the oven. I'd put effort into this meal, though neither of them would notice or appreciate it. Lula arrived first, carrying a wine bottle. $12 label, thoughtless. "Dad, this smells amazing. You didn't have to go to so much trouble." "No trouble." I gestured to the table. "Last dinner together, wanted it to be nice." She sat in her usual chair, placed the cheap wine on the table like it was a gift. "You're handling everything okay, right? With us leaving?" "I'm proud of you both." The lie came out smooth. "Buying your first home is a big achievement." Seth arrived 10 minutes late, face flushed, eyes already glazed. He'd been drinking in the guest wing before coming over. "Hey, Ray! Man, it smells great in here." He sat heavily, immediately reaching for the wine bottle, poured himself a full glass without offering to pour for anyone else. I served the steaks. Lula talked continuously about the house. Amazing natural light, safe neighborhood, perfect pool for entertaining. Seth ate aggressively, refilling his wine glass between bites. I cut my steak methodically, nodded at appropriate moments, counted his drinks. Second glass. Seth interrupted Lula, made jokes about their old apartment being terrible. Third glass. He leaned back in his chair, gestures more expansive, voice louder. "No offense, Ray, but you live like someone from the last century. Who keeps cash in a house safe anymore?" I smiled. Times change, I suppose. Fourth glass? Seth's filter disappeared entirely. You know what's funny? We lived here a year and I never felt like adults. Now we're buying property? He laughed, almost knocked over his glass. It's surreal. Lula shot him a look. Seth, maybe slow down. I'm fine, babe. Just celebrating. He refilled his glass, spilled a few drops on the tablecloth. His eyes found mine, something ugly glinting there. You should have hidden your treasures better, Ray. I mean, really? A safe in the study? That's the first place anyone would look. The table went silent. My knuckles went white around my fork handle. Under the table, hidden. My face stayed pleasant, almost amused. You're absolutely right, Seth. Poor security on my part. Lula kicked him under the table. Seth, what are you... What? He seemed genuinely confused by her reaction. I'm just saying, if you're going to keep cash around, be smarter about it. We should really get back. Lula stood abruptly. Movers come early tomorrow. Seth, come on. We're having a nice dinner, Seth protested, but Lula was already pulling him up. Now. Her voice had an edge I'd rarely heard. Seth finally stood, wobbling slightly. Great steak, Ray. You're a good cook. Lula guided him toward the hallway. At the doorway, she turned back. Thanks for dinner, Dad. Really. Seth's just tired and emotional about the move. They disappeared into the guest wing. I sat alone at the table, surrounded by dirty dishes and the half-empty wine bottle Seth had demolished. I didn't move for a full minute, just sat there replaying his words. Should have hidden your treasures better. Not speculation, not a joke. He knew. He'd known where the safe was because he'd opened it. He'd known what was inside because he'd taken it. I stood slowly and began clearing the table. Mechanical movements. Stack plates, gather silverware, pour out the last of Seth's wine. The next morning I called Marcus Webb at 9 sharp. Marcus, I need everything on their property. Today, if possible. Already pulled it. His voice sounded unsurprised. Had a feeling you'd call. Come by at 2? I'll be there. Webb's office felt familiar now. I sat in the client chair I'd occupied twice before, watching him slide documents across the desk. Property deed. He tapped the first page. Owner, Seth Michael Davis. I read the name. Just his name. Lula's not on the title. Joint tenancy with a spouse would be standard for a married couple. He kept her name off, probably because her credit score was problematic. Webb pulled out another document. Wells Fargo holds the mortgage, $395,000 at 6.5% interest. I studied the deed, making notes. Single owner, single point of failure. Marcus, tell me about Arizona's tax lien system. Webb's eyebrows rose slightly, but he turned to his computer. The state sells tax lien certificates for unpaid property taxes. Legal, public process. Anyone can buy them at auction. What does the buyer get? The right to collect the debt plus interest. 16% annually in Arizona. He typed something, pulled up a website. If the debt remains unpaid after proper notification, the lien holder can foreclose. Does Seth have any tax debts? Webb typed into the county database. Turned the screen toward me. Davis, Seth M. outstanding balance, $8,247.16. Tax years 2022 and 2023, never fully resolved. $8,000, a tiny debt, barely worth the county's effort to pursue. To me, it was a hook buried in Seth's jaw. Can anyone buy these liens? I asked. At public auction, yes. Sometimes directly from the county for outstanding debts. Webb was watching me carefully now. Why? What would happen if I bought Seth's tax lien? You'd own his debt. He'd owe you, not the state. If he doesn't pay within the legal time frame, you could force sale of assets. Webb paused. Including the house. I leaned back in my chair. The pieces were aligning. Seth had stolen my money, bought a house with it, put the title in his name only, and he owed a debt that I could purchase legally. This is a long game, Ray. Webb's voice held a warning. Not immediate revenge. 6 months minimum before you could foreclose. Probably longer. I've got time. I met his eyes. And patience. I'll be clear. I'm advising you on legal options. What you choose to do with those options is your decision. He made a note on his legal pad. This is aggressive, but it's legal. Then I need you to set it up. I stood. Quietly. Through a shell company if necessary. Seth shouldn't know I own his debt until I'm ready for him to know. That can be arranged. The next morning I woke to the rumble of a moving truck at 6. I made coffee and stood at my living room window in my pajamas, watching. The truck filled my driveway. 2 movers carried out furniture, couch, bed frame, boxes stacked high. Seth directed them, pointing and gesturing. Lula checked items off on a clipboard. Neither of them looked at the main house, too busy with their new life to spare a thought for the old man they'd left behind. I watched for 20 minutes. When they finished loading, Seth climbed into the moving truck. Lula got in the Audi, the car I'd indirectly paid for, and followed the truck down the street. The street went quiet. I was alone in the house for the first time in a year. That afternoon, I sat in my study with Arizona tax code printed and highlighted on my desk. I'd spent hours researching foreclosure timelines, notification requirements, court procedures. I created a new document. Operation Timeline. Phase 1, purchase tax lien through shell company Webb would establish. Phase 2, let them settle in, get comfortable. 6 months, maybe longer. Phase 3, apply financial pressure. Perhaps a tip to the IRS about unexplained cash. Let them feel the walls closing in. Phase 4, demand payment when they're weakest. When they can't pay, move to foreclosure. Phase 5, take the house, sell it at auction. Watch everything they built crumble. I leaned back in my chair, studying the timeline. Not about recovering my money. I'd accepted that was gone. This was about justice, about making them understand that stealing from someone they'd underestimated had consequences. Through the window, I could see their empty parking spot. The guest wing sat silent, door closed. Let them celebrate in their new house. Let them swim in their pool and host parties and feel like they'd gotten away with it. The foreclosure notice would taste sweeter when they were comfortable. The GPS announced my arrival as I turned onto Pinnacle Peak Road. The neighborhood transformed with each block, houses growing larger, lawns more manicured, driveways wider. This was North Scottsdale wealth, the kind that announced itself in Spanish tile roofs and 3-car garages. 8847 sat at the end of a cul-de-sac. Spanish colonial style, cream stucco with terracotta tiles, circular driveway wrapping around a fountain feature. Seth's silver Audi gleamed in the afternoon sun. Next to it, a Honda CR-V I didn't recognize. New. Another purchase. I parked on the street, 3 houses down. Sat for a moment studying the property. Pool visible through the side gate. Outdoor furniture already arranged on the patio. Desert landscaping professionally maintained. They'd been here less than 2 weeks and had already spent thousands more. The housewarming gift sat in my passenger seat. Expensive wine and gourmet basket. $150 total. Appropriate gesture. Perfect prop. I walked up the stamped concrete path and rang the bell. Modern video doorbell. I smiled at the camera. Lula opened the door within seconds. Her expression cycled through surprise, confusion, then forced politeness. Dad, this is unexpected. I held up the gift basket. Thought I'd check out the new place. Congratulations again. She stood in the doorway, not immediately inviting me in. Seth appeared behind her, hand on her shoulder. His face showed the same guarded surprise. Ray, hey, didn't expect to see you. Should I have called first? I kept my tone light. Can come back another time. Social convention trapped them. Lula stepped aside. No, come in. The interior matched the exterior's promise. Vaulted ceilings, tile floors, a living room furnished with leather furniture that looked expensive. I touched the sofa as we passed. Good quality. Thanks, Lula said, her voice tight. Let me show you around. The kitchen stopped me. Wolf range, sub-zero refrigerator, granite counters stretching forever. I ran my hand along the cool stone. These appliances must have cost a fortune. We upgraded a few things. Seth's voice came from behind me. Worth the investment. I made appropriate sounds of approval while mentally calculating. $15,000 in appliances alone. $20,000 in furniture. The numbers added up in my head like they always did. Lula led me through sliding glass doors to the backyard. The pool stretched out before us, heated pump humming quietly. Outdoor kitchen, lounge chairs, string lights waiting for evening. This is impressive, I said. Really impressive. Seth gestured to the lounge chairs. Want to sit? We sat. Lula disappeared inside and returned with drinks. Water for herself, beers for us. Seth drank his quickly, already reaching for a second from the cooler beside the outdoor kitchen. "How are the neighbors?" I asked. "Everyone friendly?" "Haven't met many yet," Seth said. "Been busy settling in." "And work's going well?" "Must be, to afford all this." Seth leaned back, beer in hand. "Yeah, actually got promoted to senior manager last month. Things are good." The lie came easily to him. I knew his salary. No promotion, just theft. "That's great," I said. "Really great." The doorbell chimed. Smart home system announced, "Someone's at the front door." Seth stood quickly. "That's probably Mike and Sarah. We've got people coming over." I stood too. "I should go. Don't want to intrude on your party." "You don't have to rush off." Lula's relief betrayed her words. "No, really. You enjoy yourselves." I followed Seth to the front door. A couple in their 30s stood outside, holding wine bottles. Brief introductions. Handshakes. I excused myself and walked to my truck. But I didn't leave. I moved the truck farther down the street, where I could see the house but wasn't obviously watching. More guests arrived. 3 couples total. Expensive cars, 2 BMWs, a Mercedes. Young professionals. Probably Seth's coworkers. Music started, drifting from the backyard. Laughter, celebration. They were showing off their stolen life to friends who didn't know the foundation was built on someone else's savings. I took a photo of the house on my phone. Documentation. Then drove away. 3 days later, I met Marcus Webb at a coffee shop instead of his office. He'd suggested the change, more discreet for what we needed to discuss. He slid a manila folder across the table. Complete tax records for Seth Davis. I opened it, scanned the pages. Webb pointed to a highlighted section. There. $8,247 unpaid from tax years 2022 and 2023. He made partial payments, but never cleared it. Why hasn't the state pursued this? Too small for aggressive collection. Webb showed me his calculator. Current total with penalties. $9,180. And they'll sell this debt to anyone who wants it. Arizona's investor-friendly that way. 16% annual interest. I studied the numbers. What do I need to do? Webb pulled out incorporation documents. We create a limited liability company. You're the sole member, but ownership is obscured through the legal structure. I'll be registered agent. All communications go through my office. He showed me the proposed name. Desert Peak Holdings, LLC. Generic, I said. Perfect. I signed the formation documents. Webb explained the timeline. LLC establishment would take a week. Then we'd purchase the tax lien directly from the county. Once you own it, you're his creditor, Webb said. He owes you, not the state. When can I demand payment? Whenever you want. But my advice? Wait. Let him get comfortable. Let him spend more money, take on more obligations, then strike when he's financially extended. I nodded slowly. How long before I could foreclose if he doesn't pay? Minimum 90 days after formal demand. Could take longer depending on his response. I've got time. Webb raised his eyebrows but didn't judge. I'll draft the paperwork. That night, I sat in my study, researching Arizona foreclosure law. The statutes were clear. Notification requirements, redemption periods, court procedures. I created a flowchart. Acquisition, waiting period, demand, default, foreclosure, added estimated dates. Foreclosure possible by late August. The following weekend, I drove past their house again. Friday evening, another party in progress. Pool lit up like a stage. At least 12 people visible. Music loud enough to hear from the street. Every party was borrowed time. Every toast made with my money. I didn't stop, just observed while driving past, then continued home. Tuesday morning, Webb called. It's done. Desert Peak Holdings now owns Seth's tax lien. How much total? $9,180. The lien certificate has been recorded with the county. When does Seth find out? When we want him to? Or when he tries to refinance or sell? The lien is public record, but most people don't check unless they have a reason. I thanked Webb and hung up, walked to my study and pulled out the folder I'd labeled Phase 1 complete, filed the tax lien certificate inside, then opened a new folder. Phase 2 pressure. I sat at my desk and began typing the next steps. Not rushing, not celebrating, just moving forward with the same methodical precision I'd used my entire career. They thought they'd gotten away with it. They thought their new house and their parties and their expensive furniture meant they'd won. They were wrong. Phase 1 was complete. Phase 2 was about to begin, and I had all the patience in the world. The IRS website filled my laptop screen. Form 3949A Information Referral. The form citizens could use to report suspected tax fraud. Anonymous. Legal. Untraceable. I filled in the fields carefully. Tuesday morning, coffee beside me, sun streaming through the study window. Taxpayer name, Seth Michael Davis. Address, 8847 Pinnacle Peak Road, Scottsdale, Arizona. Tax year, 2025. Description, I type precisely, just facts. Taxpayer made cash payments totaling $70,000 in February 2025. Vehicle down payment, $25,000. Real estate down payment, $45,000. Known salary, $65,000 annually. No explanation for cash source. Possible unreported income. No identifying information about the reporter. That's what anonymous meant. I clicked submit. A confirmation page appeared with a reference number. I wrote it in my notebook. Closed the browser. Phase 2 initiated. The waiting was the hardest part. 3 weeks of maintaining my normal routine while the IRS processed my tip. Grocery shopping. Coffee at my usual place. Reading. No contact with Seth or Lula. Weekly calls to Webb. Any updates? Nothing yet, he'd say. These things take time. I researched IRS procedures, audit timelines, CP 2000 notices, penalty calculations. Knowledge was preparation. Mid-May, my phone rang. Webb. Interesting development, he said. Seth called my office this morning. I sat up. He knows about the lien? No, he was asking my receptionist for tax attorney recommendations. Why would he need that? Exactly what I wondered. Webb paused. I made some calls. He's in trouble with the IRS. 2 days later, I called Seth's number. Strategic timing. Maintaining the concerned father performance. He answered on the 4th ring. Hello? His voice sounded distracted, stressed. Seth, it's Ray, checking in on you guys. Oh, Ray, hey. Pause. Not the best time, honestly. Just wanted to see how the house is treating you. Any issues? House is fine, just busy. Work is crazy. I heard the stress beneath his words. You sound tired. Taking care of yourself? I'm fine, really. Just a lot going on. Defensive. I gotta go. Talk later. He hung up abruptly. I smiled slightly. Mission accomplished. That evening my phone rang. 9:30. Unusual time. Dad? Lula's voice was tight. I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest. Of course. Have you talked to anyone about Seth's finances? Anyone official? I let confusion color my voice. What? No. Why would I? What's going on? She exhaled. Seth got a letter from the IRS. They're investigating his taxes. The IRS? That's serious. What do they want? Something about cash transactions earlier this year. He has to prove where money came from. Her voice cracked slightly. He hired an attorney. $5,000 just for the retainer. $5,000? That's steep. We can manage. It's just unexpected. She paused. Seth thinks someone reported him. Said it's too specific to be random. Why would anyone report him? That's what I said, but he's paranoid now. I kept my voice sympathetic. These audits happen randomly sometimes. IRS uses algorithms. Maybe. She didn't sound convinced. I should go. Thanks, Dad. The next morning I drove to Webb's office. He already had coffee ready. Figured you'd come in after Lula's call. How did you... I monitor these things for you. He showed me his calculator. 5,000 retainer plus hourly rates. Richard Hammond charges $300 an hour. Seth's looking at 8 to 10,000 minimum. And the tax bill itself? 70,000 unreported income. Assuming his bracket, roughly 15,000 owed plus penalties. Webb tapped his pen. Total financial hit around $25,000. And he still doesn't know about the tax lien? Not yet. I deliberately didn't contact them for 2 weeks. Let them deal with the IRS without my concerned calls. I spent the time researching foreclosure procedures, property law, eviction processes, created a timeline. June 15th, demand letter. July 15th, default if unpaid. August 1st, file foreclosure. Everything legal, everything documented. 2 weeks later, I called Seth's number again. Lula answered instead. Dad? In the background, Seth's voice, raised and angry. Is this a bad time? Yes, sorry, we're in the middle of something. Everything okay with the IRS situation? She laughed bitterly. No. Seth's attorney says we might owe $20,000. 20,000. That's substantial. Tell me about it. And Seth's being impossible. We're fighting constantly. I'm sorry. That's stressful. I have to go. She hung up without goodbye. Webb called that afternoon with intelligence from his tax attorney contacts. The IRS had completed its assessment. $18,500 total. Taxes, penalties, interest. Seth had 30 days to pay or set up a payment plan. Payment plan minimum is $1,500 a month, Webb said, on top of his $2,800 mortgage. Can he afford $4,300 monthly? No, I said. He can't. Webb's contacts also reported Seth had applied for personal loans at 3 banks, all denied. Debt-to-income ratio too high. He was inquiring about selling the Audi, but still owed $47,000 while the car was worth $43,000. Underwater by $4,000. He's out of options, Webb said. No liquidity, no credit, no assets to sell. Late May, my phone rang. Evening, Lula, crying. Lula, what's wrong? Everything. The word came through tears. Everything's wrong. Talk to me. What happened? Seth finally told me the truth. About the money, she sobbed. He said he'd done something he shouldn't have. My heart raced, but my voice stayed steady. What did he do? He won't give me details, but I think he stole money, or took it illegally somehow. From whom? Long pause. I don't know. He won't say. But now it's catching up and we can't pay these bills. Have you asked him directly if he stole money? He says he borrowed something without permission, planning to pay it back. That's called theft, Lula. I didn't know. Defensive. I swear I didn't know when we bought the house. But you suspected something when he suddenly had cash, didn't you? She cried harder. I don't know. Maybe. I didn't want to think about it. And now you're paying the price for looking the other way. Can you help us? Please? Just a loan? I let the silence stretch, then cold and clear. I can't enable theft, Lula. Seth made choices. He'll face consequences. But I'm your daughter. We could lose everything. You chose Seth over me long ago, when you lived in my house, knowing he'd stolen from me. Sharp intake of breath. You knew? I've known for months. I was waiting for the right moment. What does that mean? It means justice takes time, but it's coming. Tell Seth he should have hidden his treasures better. That's what Seth said that night. Her voice rose. You're behind this. The IRS. I reported suspicious financial activity. That's legal. What Seth did wasn't. I can't believe you'd do this to us. I can't believe you'd stand by while your husband robbed me. Goodbye, Lula. I hung up. First time I'd dropped the mask completely. That evening, I opened my status document. Typed. Phase 2. Complete. Mask dropped. They know. Listed the results. IRS bill, $18,500. Attorney fees, $8,000 to $10,000. Marriage fractured. Financial crisis. Truth revealed. Typed a new phase heading. Phase 3. Endgame. Then, June 15th. Desert Peak. Holdings sends demand letter for tax lien payment. Amount with accumulated interest and penalties. $10,500. Typed, they will not be able to pay. Foreclosure proceedings begin August 2025. I saved the document. Didn't smile. Just a satisfied nod. Closed the laptop. Sat in the quiet of my study. June 15th was 3 weeks away. Desert Peak Holdings would send the demand letter. Seth would discover he owed another $10,000 he couldn't pay, and the countdown to foreclosure would begin. Justice wasn't fast, but it was thorough, and it was coming. Marcus Webb slid 2 documents across his desk. I picked up the first. IRS notice of proposed assessment. Seth Davis listed as taxpayer. The notice demanded documentation for $70,000 in cash transactions within 15 days. The second document showed payment records. Webb's finger tapped 2 dates, April, May, both marked unpaid. He's defaulting, Webb said. 2 consecutive missed payments on the tax debt. I studied both documents, mind calculating. The IRS was demanding proof Seth couldn't provide. The tax lien was in default, giving me legal standing to demand full payment immediately. Under Arizona law, Webb continued, 2 missed payments means we can demand the entire balance, all $10,500. What happens if he can't document the cash to the IRS? Webb pulled up another form on his computer screen. 20% penalty for underreporting income. That's $15,000 on top of the $18,000 he already owes. $33,000 to the IRS. $10,000 to me. Attorney fees he'd already paid. The walls were closing in from every direction. When do we send the demand letter? I asked. My advice? Wait until after the IRS penalty hits. Pile everything on at once. Overwhelm him financially. I nodded. Draft the letter. Hold it until I give the word. 2 weeks passed. Webb called with an update. IRS rejected Seth's explanation, he said. He claimed the cash was a personal loan from a friend. No documentation, no promissory note, nothing. So the penalty stands? $15,000. Notice sent to Seth today. I made a note in my journal. The pressure was mounting exactly as planned. Send the demand letter, I told Webb the next day. Certified mail. Signature required. You want him to know it's coming? I want proof he received it. That evening my phone rang. Lula. We hadn't spoken since our confrontation 3 weeks ago. Dad, it's me. Her voice was hesitant, testing. I said nothing. Waited. I'm sorry for yelling at you last time. This is all Seth's fault. The IRS, the penalties, everything. He lied to me about so much. I know he did. Silence stretched between us. Maybe I made a mistake marrying him, she said quietly. I don't know anymore. You made your choice, Lula, when you stood by Seth after he stole from me. But I didn't know for sure, not at the beginning. You suspected. You chose to ignore it. That's complicity. She started crying. I waited unmoved. Can't you forgive me? I'm your daughter. Doesn't that count for something? You'll have to live with marrying a thief. That's on you, not me. Fine, I get it. You hate me too. I hung up without responding. Days later, she called again. This time, panic edged her voice. Seth got a letter from a company called Desert Peak Holdings. They're demanding $10,000 for some old tax debt. That's unfortunate. We just paid $20,000 to the IRS. We don't have another $10,000. Not my problem. Seth thinks you're behind this company. Her voice sharpened. Are you involved with them? I kept my tone neutral. Debts get sold to collection companies all the time. This timing is too convenient. First the IRS, now this. You're doing all of this, aren't you? Seth should have paid his taxes. Then there'd be no debt to sell. I can't believe you're doing this to your own daughter. I'm not doing anything to you. Seth did this when he stole from me. These are just consequences. 2 weeks of silence followed. I didn't contact them. They didn't contact me. One evening I drove past their house. The Audi had a handwritten "for sale" sign in the window. The lawn needed mowing. Small detail, but telling. Through the lit windows I could see 2 figures gesturing animatedly, arguing. I didn't stop, just drove past slowly, then continued home. In my study I created a spreadsheet. Seth's monthly obligations. Mortgage, $2,800 IRS payment plan. Minimum, $500, high-interest personal loan, $400 car payment, $650 credit card minimums, $500, total $5,850 per month. Seth's take-home pay, approximately $4,000 monthly. Deficit, $1,850 every single month. Mathematically impossible to sustain. Default was inevitable. Webb called with a warning. Seth's attorney is investigating Desert Peak Holdings, asking questions about the LLC ownership structure. Can they trace it to me? Eventually, yes. The structure provides privacy, not complete anonymity. Determined investigation could find you in a week or 2. Let them. Everything I've done is legal. Just wanted you prepared. When he discovers it's you, he might react badly. I'm ready for that. Late June, Lula called one final time. Her voice was completely broken. Dad, please. We're going to lose everything. I can't help you, Lula. Seth made choices. You enabled him. I hate you for this. You're entitled to your feelings. We're getting lawyers. We'll fight you. Good luck with that. I haven't broken any laws. You're a monster. No, Seth destroyed you when he stole from me. I'm just delivering consequences. I hung up and immediately blocked her number. That night, I updated my tracking document. Phase 1, tax lien acquisition. Phase 2, IRS pressure. Phase 3, demand letter sent. Next milestone, July 25th, tax lien payment deadline. Anticipated outcome, default, foreclosure filing in August. I added a final note. Seth attempting to sell Audi. Current value approximately $43,000. Owes $47,000. Net proceeds, 0. Insufficient to cover any debts. I looked at the calendar on my wall. Circled July 25th in red marker. Wrote beside it, deadline. Seth's attorney was investigating Desert Peak Holdings. They'd trace it to me soon. When Seth discovered the truth, he'd come to me angry. I was ready. A car door slammed outside. Loud. Aggressive. I looked up from my newspaper. Through the living room window, I saw Seth striding up my walkway. Face red, fists clenched. He held papers in one shaking hand. I set down my coffee and newspaper methodically. Stood. Walked to the front door. I opened it before he could knock. Seth stood there, breathing hard, waving the papers. You! This is you! Desert Peak Holdings. You bought my tax debt. I leaned against the doorframe. Good morning, Seth. Something I can help you with? Don't play dumb. He stepped closer. You're trying to steal our house. This is harassment. I bought a debt at a public sale. Completely legal investment. You reported me to the IRS? You've been sabotaging me from the start. I reported suspicious financial activity. That's every citizen's right. He tried to push past me into the house. I didn't move aside. You're not coming in. Say what you came to say from there. This is revenge, his voice cracked. For whatever you think happened. For that $180,000 you stole from my safe? That whatever? He froze. First time I'd said it directly to him, he recovered quickly. You can't prove that. Then explain where you got $70,000 cash in February. Legally. Down the street, Mr. Patterson walked his dog, slowing to watch. Seth noticed, lowered his voice. Can we talk inside? No. Say what you came to say and leave. I'll sue you. My attorney says this is targeted harassment. Sue me for what? Buying debt legally? Reporting tax fraud to proper authorities? I can't pay $10,000. You know I can't. The IRS took everything. You found $70,000 to steal. Find $10,000 to pay your debt. I don't have it. Not my problem. You have until July 25th. And if I don't pay, I foreclose on your house. The law gives me that right. His anger cracked into desperation. I'll pay you back. The money I took. All of it. I'll get a loan. Your credit's destroyed. No one will lend to you. Then I'll sell the house. Just give me time. July 25th at 5 p.m. Pay in full or face foreclosure. Fine. He backed toward his car. You want war? I'll give you war. This isn't war, Seth. This is justice. He got in his car and peeled out, tires squealing. I waved to Mr. Patterson, then went inside and called Webb. Seth was just here. He figured out Desert Peak Holdings is mine. How bad was it? He threatened lawsuits. Said his attorney told him it's harassment. His attorney will tell him the truth soon enough. Everything you did is legal. Webb paused. Want me to get a restraining order? No. Let him thrash around. Over the next days, Webb reported Seth's counter-moves. He hired a private investigator, David Reeves, $2,000 retainer. To investigate what? You. For harassment, stalking, conspiracy. Waste of money. There's nothing to find. That's what I told him. Days later, my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered anyway. Why didn't Seth tell me about old tax debts? Lula's voice strained and angry. $8,000 unpaid for years. You married him. You should have asked. He kept this from me. He lied about everything. In the background, Seth's voice. Hang up. Don't talk to him. This is partly your fault, Lula said. You're pushing us to this. I'm collecting a debt. Seth created it. Seth grabbed the phone. Stop calling her. Click. I noted complete breakdown between them. Webb called with another update. Seth consulted a litigation attorney, Kevin Morrison, wanted to sue you for intentional infliction of emotional distress. And Morrison told him he has no case. Everything you did was legal. Advised him to pay the debt or negotiate. How much did that consultation cost? $500. More money Seth didn't have. I drove past their house again. The Audi was gone. The house was dark, despite being evening. A for sale sign stood in the yard. I researched the listing online when I got home. Asking price $415,000. They still owed $385,000 on the mortgage. Potential net after realtor fees, maybe $30,000. Not enough to cover the tax lien, IRS debt, and everything else. Webb obtained a copy of the private investigator's report through his contacts. I read it carefully. Reeves had investigated my financial records, property ownership, business dealings. His conclusion was clear. All transactions legal. No evidence of harassment or stalking. Butler reported suspicious activity to IRS, legal right. Butler purchased tax lien at public sale, legal investment. No basis for legal action. Seth had spent $2,000 to confirm I'd done nothing wrong. Perfect. July 25th approached. I marked it on my calendar in red, watched my bank account, checked my mail. No payment arrived, no communication from Seth's attorneys. The day before the deadline, Seth sent a text. I need more time. I responded, deadline is July 25th at 5 p.m. Pay in full or face foreclosure. I'm selling the house. I'll have money in 30 days. You have until tomorrow. Not negotiable. You're going to regret this. July 25th, 5 p.m. I didn't respond after that. July 25th arrived. I stayed home all day, phone nearby. 5 o'clock passed. Nothing. I waited another hour, giving him every benefit of doubt. 6 o'clock. Still nothing. I called Webb. He didn't pay. Expected. Want me to file foreclosure paperwork tomorrow? Yes. How long until auction? 30 to 45 days for court approval and notification. Figure mid to late August. File the paperwork. Let's end this. After the deadline passed, Seth sent multiple furious texts. I read them but didn't respond. Silence was more powerful than any words. Lula left a voicemail. You're heartless. I hope you're happy. I deleted it without listening to the full message. Blocked both numbers permanently. That evening, I updated my tracking document. Phase 3, complete. Phase 4, foreclosure, August. I added notes on Seth's wasted spending. Private investigator, 2,000 attorney consultation, 500 total, spent fighting me, 2,500, result, 0. I looked at the calendar, circled mid to late August, wrote, foreclosure auction. Seth had fought back with investigators and attorneys and threats. None of it had mattered. The law was clear, my actions were legal, and his deadline had passed. The foreclosure process would begin tomorrow morning. By late August, the house they'd bought with my stolen money would be gone. Justice didn't announce itself with fanfare. It simply arrived, methodical and inevitable. Marcus Webb slid the foreclosure notice across his desk. Original debt was $9,180. Add 7 months of interest at 16% annually, late fees, and legal costs. Total comes to $22,000. I picked up the document, read through the formal language. Notice of intent to foreclose, printed in bold at the top. Desert Peak Holdings, LLC, demanding payment in full. This gives him 30 days, Webb said. If he doesn't pay, the house goes to auction. I picked up Webb's pen, paused for only a moment, then signed my name at the bottom. Send it today. Are you ready for this? Once it's delivered, there's no turning back. I've been ready since February. Send it. 2 days later, Webb called. He signed for delivery. That evening, my phone rang. Seth. His voice was breaking before he even finished my name. $22,000? It was only $8,000. This is insane. Interest accumulates when you don't pay. It's been 7 months. You know I don't have that money. The IRS already bled me dry. Then you'll lose the house. Simple mathematics. Please, he was crying now. I'm begging you, have mercy. I waited, let the silence stretch. Okay, he said finally. Yes, I took the money from your safe, I admit it. But I was going to pay it back, I swear. I just needed time. You had 7 months. You spent it on cars and houses and parties. I made a mistake. People make mistakes. Mistakes have consequences. This is yours. What do you want from me? My life? You want me destroyed? I want what you took. Since you spent it, I'll take what you bought with it. He sobbed into the phone. I hung up. An hour later, Lula called. Dad, please. I didn't know about the theft. I swear I didn't know. You suspected? You looked the other way because you wanted the house. I was wrong. I admit it. But please don't do this to me. I'm not doing this to you. Seth did this. I'm just collecting what's owed. You're my father. Doesn't that mean anything? You're my daughter. That's why this hurts. But justice doesn't bend for family. She hung up crying. Webb reported Seth's attempts to find money. 3 more banks denied loans. Mortgage refinance rejected. Private lenders wanted interest rates Seth couldn't afford. Every door closed. I instructed Webb to draft one final offer. Make them an offer. One chance to avoid auction. Webb typed while I spoke. I'll buy the house for remaining mortgage balance, $375,000, plus forgive the $22,000 debt. Total value just under $400,000. That's below market but above auction price, Webb said. Gives them some dignity. They won't take it, but I want them to know they had a choice. Seth called the next day, furious. $400,000 for a house worth $420? You're trying to steal it? I'm offering you more than you'll get at auction. Math is simple. I'll never sell to you. Never. Then I'll buy it at auction for even less. Your choice. You're a thief. That's rich coming from you, Lula called separately hours later, whispering. Is the offer real? You'd actually do it? Yes. But you both have to agree and vacate in 2 weeks. Seth won't agree. He's too proud. Pride is expensive. You have 72 hours. 3 days passed. Lula texted. Seth refuses. I told Webb to withdraw the offer and proceed with foreclosure. The court hearing came days later. Webb attended. I didn't need to be there. He texted updates. Their attorney arguing hardship. Judge reviewing. Approved. Auction set August 28th. Late that night, Seth called drunk. What if I can get the money? What if I find it somehow? You have 20 days left. Find $22,000. Give me 60 days. Just 2 more months. The answer is no. You're drunk. Go to sleep. I hung up and blocked his number. August 28th arrived faster than I expected and slower than I wanted. The morning was clear, hot already at 8. I dressed in a suit, checked the cashier's check in my jacket pocket. $300,000. I drove to the Maricopa County Courthouse, parked in the lot, walked across the pavement that shimmered in the heat. Webb waited near the security checkpoint. Ready? He asked. Let's finish this. We walked through security together, took the elevator to the 3rd floor, entered the auction room. Seth and Lula sat in the back row. I saw them but didn't acknowledge them. Seth's face looked haggard, Lula's eyes red from crying. I chose a seat in the middle, aisle access. Webb sat beside me. The auctioneer, a county official in business attire, stood at the podium reviewing paperwork. Next property, he announced, 8847 Pinnacle Peak Road, Scottsdale. 4-bedroom, 3.5 bath, 3,200 square feet. Opening bid? $250,000. I raised my hand immediately. 2 other investors raised their hands. The bidding climbed. $270. $280. One investor dropped out. $290, I said. The other bidder hesitated, shook his head. Sold. To bidder number 12 for $290,000. I walked to the front desk, signed documents, presented my check. Behind me, Seth sobbed. A broken sound in the quiet room. Property transfers immediately, the clerk said. Current occupants have 48 hours to vacate. I took the papers and left. Seth ran after me in the parking lot. You took everything, he said, face wet with tears. You took everything from me first? I hate you for this. The house is mine. You have 48 hours. Lula pulled him away. They drove off, Seth still crying. 48 hours later, the sheriff supervised their eviction. I drove to the house after they left, walked through empty rooms. The furniture remained, all bought with my money. I listed it for $420,000. A young family bought it 3 weeks later. In my study, I created the final accounting. Stolen $230,000. Recovered after costs, $115,000. Net loss, $115,000. $8. I typed, could have accepted the loss, chose justice instead. Worth it. Through Webb, I learned Seth's aftermath. Bankruptcy, motel living, IRS garnishments. Lula divorced him, working retail, credit ruined. Late August, I stood on my patio watching sunset. 6 months from theft to resolution. I hadn't recovered everything, but they'd lost everything they built with my money. Justice doesn't require joy, just completion. The sun disappeared. I walked inside, closing the door behind me. It was finished. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left. Thank you for watching.